The coronavirus, plague, pestilence. What does the Bible say about it? Coronavirus is now sweeping across the globe with the ferocity of a tsunami. We've watched it devastate Wuhan, Italy, Spain. This week, all eyes are on New York, the newest epicenter of the virus. There, doctors are battling desperately against a host of obstacles. From the shortage of personal protective gear for healthcare workers, to the application submitted by city officials to the federal government for a second disaster relief morgue, New York is at the center of an unfolding nightmare. The picture is just as grim farther afield in other parts of the world. For those of us in Australia and New Zealand, though, it seems that the curve is beginning to flatten. But we're still on the edge of our seats, wondering which way this crisis will turn. So, is this pandemic apocalyptic? Are we staring down the blade that will slice apart the world and usher in the end as we know it? What does the Bible have to say about everything that is taking place around us? Well, Bible prophecy, in fact, does mention deadly viruses or pestilences. In Luke chapter 21, Jesus outlines the events that will take place just before the end of the world. In Luke chapter 21 and verse 11, Jesus says that one of the signs of his coming will be pestilences. And there will be great earthquakes in various places, and famines and pestilences, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. The Greek definition for pestilence used here means plague or disease. So the Bible does mention that prior to Jesus' coming, there will be widespread natural disasters and diseases around the world. In Matthew chapter 24, which outlines the same sequence of events described in Luke 21, Jesus offers us further clarity regarding these signs. In Matthew chapter 24 and verses 7 and 8, he says, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and in various places there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes. But all these things are merely the beginning of birth pangs." Jesus used labor and birth as an analogy for the sequence of events that leads up to his second coming and the end of the world. Pestilence, disease or virus, is one of a long list of signs that occur as part of this process. Any mother can tell you that labor can be a long and painful process. But the thing about labor is this: it usually begins with relatively mild contractions that build in frequency and intensity. The signs surrounding the end of the world will be similar. They will be relatively mild and farther apart to begin with. But as the end draws nearer and nearer, they will be more intense and closer together. If you look at history, you'll notice that many of the signs Jesus mentions are actually becoming progressively more intense and closer together. And that's true of viruses. In recent times, we've seen Ebola, SARS, MERS, and now COVID-19. The main point of what Jesus is saying in Luke chapter 21 and Matthew 24 is to watch for the prophetic signs to increase in frequency. This increase will signal the soon return of Jesus, which means that while we don't exactly know when Jesus will come, we can be sure that his coming is near. Now, while COVID-19 might not signal the end of the world as we know it, it might be a signal for us to sit up and take notice and to prepare for Jesus' soon coming. But regardless of the severity and intensity of the crisis before us, Jesus tells us not to panic. In John chapter 16 and verse 33, he tells us, "These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." In John chapter 14 and verse 27, Jesus reminds us not to be troubled or afraid, because he is with us no matter what the situation or circumstances. He says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." And again, in Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 5, he says this, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." Regardless what is happening around us, you can be sure that you can find refuge and comfort in Jesus. Don't be afraid. Reach out and take hold of Jesus' hand, and he's there for you. Building on the analogy Jesus used about labor and birth, it's important to realize that as a mother's contractions get more painful and frequent, the most important thing for her to do is to keep calm. Keep calm and focus on what lies at the end of the painful and difficult ordeal she is going through. The joy of seeing her baby face to face. And as we face crises of increasing intensity and frequency, we should remember the same thing. Keep calm and look up. The joy of seeing Jesus face to face will far outweigh any ordeal we might have to face here and now. So hold on to Jesus and pray. Look to him for peace and trust that he will carry you through whatever lies ahead. If you would like to know what the future holds for you and your family and where the world is going, then I'd like to invite you to find the answers to your questions from a source you can trust, the Bible itself. And a very good place to start is one of our new online Bible courses on the Incredible Journey website, or feel free to phone us. Here's the information you need.